It has been now 6 months, half a year since the National Act New Zealand First coalition government was elected. That it released its coalition documents, and it charted and is charting a new course, a course endorsed by most of the country at the last election. This has occasioned much gnashing and wailing of teeth and various other parts of the anatomy as well. A whole series of the body politique are in states of rickus and reaction. But for the rest of us, well, we just say, get on with it. Take a hard nut pill and on you go. And yesterday, as a part of that, the government, in actual fact, honoured an election promise, which is to review and make sure that the Resource Management Act was fit for purpose in the rural areas in particular of New Zealand. There was much criticism of the prescriptive nature of the previous government, and in places, for example, like water management throughout New Zealand, that suddenly spiritual and cultural values should attain a dominance over, well, real people. And just for me personally, sitting on a regional council, I cannot get why an exotic trout, not even native to this country, has precedence over the economic use of water to actually create food and an economy for New Zealand. Don't start me. But yesterday, Chris Bishop, the Minister for RMA Reform, yes, we've actually got a minister for that, has said that a whole series of regulations are going to be scrapped or amended under the government's changes to the Resource Management Act, and those changes include revision of stock exclusion, winter grazing, Te Mana o Te Wai, mining consenting, and something that most farmers will have a particular view on, the suspension of significant natural area requirements. To talk to about this morning, and I'm delighted to have him on the show, is the Minister of Biosecurity. I think he's also the Associate Agriculture Minister. He was Chairman of Federated Farmers, so he should know what he's talking about. ACT MP and Minister Andrew Hoggard, and he joins us now. Andrew, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
No worries. Thank you, Michael.
Listen, mate, you'd be pretty happy with yesterday. I'm assuming that this was part of the coalition agreement, yes? The announcements of yesterday?
Yeah, look, there was a number of things I think were drawn in the coalition arrangements around rebalancing Te Mana o Te Wai, removal of the sort of one-size-fits-all or none, as it turns out, regulations that impose on farming, and then also significant natural areas, which I'd already announced previously, but this is the legislative sort of framework to move it forward. So, yeah, there's a whole series of coalition agreements within this bill that are being dealt to effectively.
Okay, so the bill's going to be introduced into Parliament next month. Is that right, Andrew?
That's correct, yep.
And so you expect this bill, it'll go to a select committee, but you expect this bill to be passed by the end of the year?
That is the hope. Don't see why it wouldn't, but you can never say never. But the intention is to get it passed as quickly as we possibly can, because obviously while it's sort of sitting there unpassed, the current rules remain, and councils, as you well know, are in this weird limbo situation of knowing that the direction is changing, but it hasn't yet changed, and what the hell do we do? So we'll hopefully move it through as fast as we possibly can and make life as simple as possible for councils and farmers.
Well, on that issue, can I take you to the bullet point that says resource consents will no longer need to demonstrate accordance with Te Mana o Te Wai hierarchy of obligations during a review of the National Policy Statement for Freshwater Management. Now, that caused a great deal of upset, and I've just sort of alluded to it in my introduction to you this morning. What does that mean? Does that mean that you're going to say to regional councils who are responsible for this legislation, you have to put aside Te Mana o Te Wai, or you have an option to still honour it?
So what's been happening, and it may be happening in your area, but I know it's been happening in Canterbury, is this reluctance to grant consents in any waterways that might be viewed as degraded or not quite in their perfect state because of the hierarchy of obligations. And so the council's taking the wording which exists at the moment of meaning, well, this farmer who's up for renewal of his effluent consent or his water take consent, no, it's according how we interpret the rules, we can't renew this consent. And there's a hell of a lot of confusion and concern. So what we're saying is this is not supposed to apply at a farm level. You can, in the meantime, keep thinking about it in your national plans, but obviously noting that we're going to be redoing the national policy statement on fresh water anyway, and further look at Te Mana o Te Wai and how that fits in or doesn't fit in with that. So at the moment it's just removing that hierarchy of obligations where we're seeing, in some councils, farmers being unable to get consent or renewal of consent.
Some councils are determined to resist you, though. I'm thinking particularly of the Taranaki Regional Council, who have said, listen, let's bake in Te Mana o Te Wai so that whatever you do in the future can't be changed. The Otago Regional Council seem to be moving that way as well. Te Mana o Te Wai has infused itself, Andrew, as you know, or inculcated many of these land and water regional plans that councils have been creating, which have caused so much distress in the rural community. Now, they are baked in to those new land and water regional plans. And so, if you like, the philosophy that drives those new plans is derived in good part from Te Mana o Te Wai. What's going to happen in the meantime there?
So, the main thing we did, and it was early or late last year, was certainly extend that deadline that councils had to have new plans in place, put it out for 3 years so we can redo the MPS fresh water. Now, I know there's a lot of councils that have been working on their plans. I guess the message we would give them is, look, just tally-ho for a bit. You've got extra time. Don't throw away the work you've done, but let's not push too fast, too hard until we've got this reset, because you may be wasting a whole lot of your ratepayers' money and pursuing things that aren't going to be in the new MPS fresh water. And I don't think ratepayers need, we keep hearing of these double-digit rate rises all around the country. I would think councils would be jumping on board to be able to delay some of this stuff and not have to force all those costs onto their ratepayers. But like you said, there's some that seem, for political reasons, quite determined to push on. And I can only assume that ratepayers will remember that next year in local body elections.
Well, yes, but in many of the, if you're thinking about the Soviet Socialist Republic of Dunedin, good luck on that one, Andrew.
Yeah, true.
And Wellington for that matter as well. Perhaps not so much in Taranaki. Listen, just on that though, I want to be absolutely clear so that farmers are aware of that, because many of them are still in a state of limbo themselves and going, what the hell's going on? Because I've got a message from you and then I've got a message from their council. If the councils proceed, and Taranaki and Otago are two good examples of that, for political reasons, because they are dominated by left interests. If they proceed with the new national policy statement on freshwater management and require them to go back and then draw up a new land and water plan,
there is very well that possibility. And don't forget, we're also trying to, in this term, replace the whole Resource Management Act itself with something that is going to be more based on property rights.